I'm finally reviewing the first book in Colleen Hoover's Hopeless series. Wait. Sorry, it's just I was so embarrassed to be seen reading this in public while I was traveling for work. Today I am reviewing Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, and the title is apt because that's how I felt reading this book. Slam dunk joke. Last year I reviewed the second and a half book from this series. It was a novella called Finding Cinderella, and that video did pretty good. That video did pretty good. So I ended up ordering this book within like a week of that video going live. I started reading it in November and I didn't finish until March. And today it's almost the end of August. So that just tells you how bad I am at timelines. So I did not like this book. The first like 60 to 70% of this book was very fluffy with not a lot happening. There were just like a few red flags, signs of impending doom, but mostly it was just the main character lusting after this moody, mean bad boy. I'm honestly not going to give every little detail because it was boring. If you want to know everything that happens in this book, read it or watch somebody else's like 4-hour long video. The last quarter to a third of the book or so, while more interesting objectively, was mainly just trauma dumping and teens humping. So it still was not enjoyable. It was just a little bit more interesting because things were happening. I'm going to list the biggest trigger warnings that I noticed while reading, as well as putting any more that I can find online on screen. So here's what I caught. CSA, suicide, mentions and on page, mentions of substance abuse, addiction, kidnapping, loss of a parent. Basically, that's the big ones. If any of that is difficult for you or anything that you see on screen is difficult for you, I just recommend protecting your peace and clicking away and definitely never reading this book. But I suggest that anyway. This book is very dark, especially towards the end, and I'm going to try to keep things like light and fun, but I want to say that I am not making fun of real victims. I'm not even making fun of these characters for their victimhood. I'm making fun of, at the end of the day, the author's poor writing. Before posting this video, I will be making a donation to Rant in support of victims of sexual violence. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. They don't know that I'm doing this. I'm no one. They don't know me. I just want to make something a little bit positive out of this. So you can join me in donating if you're able at rain.org. That's RAINN.org, or I will leave a link in the description. Finally, and I feel like this goes without saying, but I am going to be shit talking and giving spoilers for this book. So if you are a fan of the book or the author, or you want to read it without any spoilers, maybe don't watch this video. I feel like that seems obvious. There's literally millions of other videos you could be watching right now. Sky, our main character, is a 17-year-old who has been homeschooled her whole life by her adoptive mom, Karen. However, for her senior year, she somehow convinced her mom to let her go to public school. She said she'll join the track team since she runs every morning, and that will look good on her college applications. So I guess that's how she convinced her. Sky lives right next door to her best friend, Six, whom you might recognize from my last video. I don't really know what order you should watch these videos in, but I'm getting off track already. Sky lives right next door to her best friend, Six, and right now at the beginning of this book, they are sneaking boys into their rooms through their windows. Six kind of has an ever-revolving set of boyfriends, and Sky just kind of gets paired up with whoever that guy's friends are. Because the thing about Sky is she doesn't really care about boys. She's not really interested in these guys. She lets them come into her room and they make out, and she describes being with them as a comfortable numbness. And she just stares at the ceiling and counts the glow-in-the-dark star stickers up there. So, yikes. I am not even the most trauma-informed person, but I must say that alarm bells are already ringing. Today, the boy in her room is Grayson, and he gets super pissy when she stops him from going further than just kissing. She wants us, the reader, to know that she is not a slut because they only ever kiss. Nothing more. Like, okay, girl, I do not care. I feel there are bigger fish to fry. And also it's weird because she never says anything outright against her friend Six, her best friend in the entire world. But by constantly insisting that she is not a slut because she doesn't let them sleep with her, Six does. She knows that Six does. Like, Six sleeps around. I'm not knocking it. Sky never explicitly says anything against this, but by constantly insisting, hey, I'm not a slut, because, am I saying slut too much? Is YouTube gonna get mad about that? But by Sky constantly insisting that, because they never do more than kiss, that she's not a slut. Like, isn't that kind of implicitly saying what she thinks about Six? I don't know. Just a thought. So Grayson leaves in a huff, and Sky goes over to Six's for their post-boy ritual of eating ice cream and watching movies. And at some point in the book, Sky says that this is the best part about even inviting the boys over. And I know that this isn't going to go this way. But wouldn't it be so much better if this was like a lesbian or asexual awakening where she like realizes this about herself and has been like, you know, compulsory heterosexual? I don't know. I'm going off track again already. As I mentioned, Sky is enrolling in public school for the first time, but unfortunately for her, her best friend Six is going to be studying abroad in Italy this semester, so she will have to face this alone. Sky goes alone to school the next morning for her first day, and she learns that she already has kind of a reputation due to her connection with Six and the boys that they sneak into their bedroom. People are calling her names and like sticking mean notes in her locker, and they're also stuffing money into her locker. Like, I guess implying that she's, like, a sex worker, but what a weird way to bully someone. At lunch, Kurt Hummel pulls her aside to sit with him, except his name is Brecken, but I do imagine him in one of those cunty little hats. He tells her that he wants to form an alliance because he is also new at school and noticed that she was getting made fun of. I do like Brecken in a way. He is portrayed as a very kind person, but he is also the token gay best friend and not really that important to the plot, to be honest. After school, Sky goes to the grocery store to pick a few things up, and the cashier is someone that she recognizes from one of her classes, so she's there making small talk when another guy around their age walks up, and the cashier greets him as Holder and asks if they'll let him come back to school. Sky immediately thinks that this guy is hot, which is rare for her. As I said, she doesn't really care about boys, but she does think that this guy is hot, but he will not stop staring at her, like insanely intense staring for a grocery store checkout line. And she is kind of alarmed by this. Like, as he's talking to this cashier, he's not breaking eye contact with her. And so she decides to book it. She runs out to her car, but he follows her. And he holds her car door open, which I'm just saying, like, you could just drive away, girl. He holds her car door open, won't let her close it, until she shows him her ID because he claims that he thought he recognizes her. Finally, he's satisfied that he doesn't actually know her, and leaves her alone. She is kind of spooked by this, as anyone would be, but still feels like attraction for him and has, like, butterflies in her stomach. Girl, no. This is the main male love interest. This guy. There's so many red flags. He is the matador and she the bull. Six is leaving for her study abroad program tonight or tomorrow, so she's still at home when Sky gets back from school. Sky goes in through Six's window and awkwardly lands on top of her and ends up kind of taking an elbow or a fist or something to the face. Put a pin in that. We'll circle back in a moment. Sky tells Six about Holder and the interaction they had and her attraction to him. And Six tells Sky that it would have been fine for her to be gay or only be into old men, but it would be a shame if she never experienced lust. And she says, at least we know you're not broken. Jesus fucking Christ, pour one out for my ace homies. Six recognizes who Holder is from Sky's description and says that she heard that he spent the last year in juvie because he beat a guy up for being gay. And Six is like, he is not boyfriend material, which I feel Sky should have already ascertained from the interaction she just had with him. But unfortunately. So as I mentioned earlier, Sky is a runner, and she usually runs every single morning, but since it was her first day of school, she decided to run in the afternoon instead. This is important because she realizes that she is 3 miles away from home, out of water, and getting overheated, when suddenly Holder appears. Coincidentally, she's actually just in front of his house, so it's actually weird from his side too, to be fair. He's a runner too, though, apparently, and he offers to refill her water and run her back to her house because he memorized her address from seeing her license earlier. What the fuck? And then he looks at her face and he notices the bruise from like where she got banged up with Six earlier. And he's all, who did this to you? And touches her face. Ew. You don't know this person. Ugh. Anyway, he does run her home, and she ends up passing out in her yard from a combination of heat exhaustion and horniness. So he carries her inside and ingratiates himself to Sky's mom, promising to be her running partner from now on. Great. Love that. I'm so happy. So excited. Sky's mom, Karen, is like a crunchy almond mom. They are vegan, they don't eat sugar, and they have no phones, computers, or televisions in the household. I wanted to make a 5G joke here, but this book came out before the introduction of 5G, actually. As a parting gift before she goes to Italy, Six secretly gives Sky a cell phone that's like a prepaid minute phone with just enough minutes that they can text each other exactly once a day. Otherwise, Six says that if Sky wants to text anyone else, she will have to buy her own minutes. The next day, Holder shows up to run with Sky, and he mentions that she should try out for track. And Sky says that she was going to, but she hates school now, so she won't. Holder and I are on the same page for once, because he says, after one day? It's only been one day, girl. But Sky is like, how do you know I've only been in public school one day? Holder admits to asking around about her, and she is a little bit concerned that he now thinks that she's a hoe from hearing rumors and things. So she asks him why he dropped out of school, and he tells her that he had a hard year. He does not mention anything about juvie or any kind of fight or anything, and he says that he just moved back to town and he really doesn't want to go to this school again, which I don't really know how I don't think he has any other really choices. Sky lectures him about the importance of school, even though she gave up immediately on doing track to help her get into college. So who is she to talk? And Holder is annoyed by this and storms off. Later, though, Holder actually does show up to school, so either her lecture worked or he just doesn't want to break truancy laws. And he ends up cornering Sky after class to try to talk to her, but she tells him she's not interested in sleeping with him despite the rumors. He didn't say anything about that, but okay. And Grayson walks up at that exact time to put his arm around her and call her babe or some shit. And then at lunch, Sky catches Holder staring at her across the cafeteria like a freak. And he kind of motions for her to follow him out to the hallway, and she does for some reason. Holder tells her that Grayson is bad for her, and then he just punches a locker. That's a red flag. I hate him. He asks if Grayson gave her the bruise on her face, and Sky tells him it was an accident, which is a really suspicious way to not answer that question. Sky doesn't expect Holder to show up to run with her the next day, but he is there waiting when she comes outside. However, instead of running, they just argue again, even though they've barely known each other for 2 days. It's so stupid. He's mad that she believed the rumors about him without asking him about it. But when she asks him if he beat someone up for being gay and got sent to juvie, he just says he would beat him up again, which seems like a yes. It seems like a yes to me. But let's just keep that at the back of our brains for now. He's still mad that she judged him, even though Sky points out, you don't even know me, dude. You have no idea the judgment I'm capable of. So they end up going their separate ways instead of running together. A few days later at school, Holder has not spoken to Sky or shown up to run with her since they had argued that day. Grayson approaches and asks her if she's free after school, and even though inside Sky is like, ugh, this guy again, she tells him to meet her at her car. So then after school, she meets Grayson, and she lets him kiss her because she feels like he's earned it for putting up with her for the last month. Ew, learn some self-respect. She asks him what he wants, and he says, ew. She tells him she's not like the other sick, twisted girls. And that's a direct quote. She says, sick, twisted girls. the sick, twisted girls playing games with him. It's so dumb. He says that's fine with him. He doesn't need anything more. Now stop being mad and kiss me. And she does. Maybe this is like a perks of being a wallflower. We accept the love we think we deserve type of moment. Maybe that's what Colleen was going for. Like, I'll give it to her. I didn't know anything about this book. I didn't know what it was going to be. I went in totally blind. And I can tell this bitch is traumatized. I already knew it. Something wrong with that girl. Anyway, Sky is kissing Grayson when she sees Holder looking at them from afar because she has her eyes open, macking in the parking lot. Classy. And to her credit, she does break up with Grayson then and there, even though she just literally moments ago basically agreed to be his girlfriend or whatever. But she breaks up with him immediately because she realizes that she has real feelings for Holder for some reason. Personally, I think both these guys suck, and she should probably just focus on school, especially after lecturing Holder about it. So it's a Friday night, and Sky's mom occasionally goes away for the weekend for work. Whenever that happens, Sky uses this opportunity to bake a bunch of sugar-filled confections that are usually contraband. She's in the middle of doing this when the doorbell rings, and it is Holder. They greet each other, and Sky notes that he's in a good mood, but who knows when that will change and he'll start arguing with her again. Girl, that is a red flag. That is not a desirable trait. Holder is kind of like looking around at family pictures and her, everything in her house and asking nosy questions. He asks her why she doesn't look like her mom, and she's like, I'm adopted. Then Sky gets a text message from Six, and it's a daily affirmation, which she has been sending every day to encourage Sky while they're apart. Holder reads it, which is rude already, and then he calls it lame because he's also a dick. Sky says they're sweet, but he pushes and says that he bets that she thinks that they're dumb and that she doesn't even read them, and she secretly thinks about how he's right, which is actually the first indication that we as the reader get that she feels this way. And also, what a bitch. Her best friend is sending her something nice every day while they're thousands of miles apart, and she's secretly thinking it's lame. Also, she literally encouraged Six to do this. Earlier in the book, she tells Six, I could get used to these affirmations. Did you lie? Was that a lie? Anyway, Holder says she'll get too big of an ego if she keeps reading these compliments, even though he just said that he doesn't think that she even reads them, but whatever, and that he'd better start texting her insults to even it out. This will be important later. In her bedroom, he says something like, so that's the famous window, huh? And she obviously gets offended by this and asks him to leave, but he doesn't leave. He sits on her bed, and when she tries to physically remove him, he kind of like pulls her down with him and rolls so that he's on top of her. Stop forcing physical contact. I hate it. They keep talking, because now she's trapped there. And he tells her that he did not know that the guy he beat up was gay. He beat him up because he was an asshole. Fair enough. And he tells her that he didn't go to juvie. He went to live with his dad for a while. She asks why he doesn't defend against the rumors, but he just kind of twists it and is like, why don't you defend against the rumors about you? But I'm kind of like, the rumors about Sky are true? Like, I guess it's sort of implied. The guys are probably saying that they did more than make out with her when they came into her room. But she absolutely does sneak boys into her room through her window. Not that she deserves to be slut-shamed, it's just that technically the rumors are not completely wrong. But Sky apologizes for judging him, and he asks why she let Grayson kiss her in the parking lot after school. She tells him that it is complicated, which is not an answer, and then asks if he's ever had a serious girlfriend and how it felt kissing her. He says, honestly, it just made him feel horny. Which props to him for the honesty. And then she has hot flashes racing through her upon hearing that he, a teenager, has been horny before. More news at 6. She says that she's never been truly attracted to anyone before him, and then she kind of like covers her face because she didn't mean to say that last part. They flirt some, but they don't kiss or anything, and then suddenly she wakes up and realizes she fell asleep and sees that Holder cleaned the whole kitchen, and he texts her that he'll be back the next day. The next day he comes back and they play a game, and I'm using that word loosely because it's just asking each other questions where the other one has to answer honestly. I hate these kinds of games because they are not games, and people will still lie, as we will see. Like, I cannot trust anyone to follow rules when they know that I can't necessarily prove that they broke them. Anyway, through the course of this game, Holder tells her that he followed her out from the grocery store because he was reminded of his sister Leslie, who took her own life a year ago. And that's very sad, but here's my question. Why did he ask to see her ID? Suspicious. Sky talks about how she was adopted because her biological mother died and her father wound up giving her up after that, and she was adopted when she was like 5. Holder says that he only beat that guy up for saying that Leslie took the easy way out. He is very emotional. Understandably so. He is still grieving. And Sky goes to the bathroom and cries one manly tear, which is notable because she supposedly never cries. And as someone who proudly proclaimed never crying as a teen, now I know that is a sign of trauma. That's not good. Later, in her bedroom, Holder kisses her all over her face and neck, but not on her lips. they're saving that. And then they start dry humping. And she is losing her mind, by the way, about this. And I'm just kind of imagining the sound of two pairs of jeans rubbing together and moaning. Holder manages to pull himself away, though, and he leaves, and he texts her one word, incredible. So I guess that means he got off. Next, there is a flashback of 13 years ago of a little girl sitting on a sidewalk and crying. There's kind of an implication that she's being abused. Another little boy and girl are there comforting her, and the boy tells her to remember what he told her to do when she is sad. And the little girl gives her a purple bracelet that she still has to this day. Back in the present, it is Monday, and Sky is feeling good. Holder is flirty and nice, but his demeanor changes when he sees the purple bracelet that she's wearing. He wrenches her arm around, demanding to know where she got it, and she's like confused. Like, she tells him it's not from another boy if that's what you think, but this is not a satisfying answer, I suppose, and he storms off. Sky is hurt, and she's like, I guess I didn't really know him. Girl, you met him a week ago, and he has been moody and unpredictable the whole time. I think that's just who he is. I think you know him well enough to know to avoid him. Holder is there the next day when she gets up to run, but they say nothing and run in silence, and she kind of pushes herself as hard as possible to finish as fast as she can and ends up collapsing in her yard. He lays down next to her and tries to hold her hand, but she pulls away from him and goes inside. Good for her. Several weeks later, and they have not spoken since Holder freaked out, and he has not shown up to run since that next day. At lunch, she looks across the cafeteria and he is smiling at her endearingly like she's just the cutest thing ever. He seems like an unstable creep to me, to be honest. Her mom is out of town again and Sky is just kind of at home reading. She dozes off and she wakes up to the sound of her window opening as someone climbs inside and crawls into bed next to her. But she knows it must be Holder. Crazy assumption to make as a teenage girl home alone at night, but it is him, of course. She tells him that she is mad at him, and he says, I know, but does not apologize. She says that she still wants to be with him, though I do not know why. No amount of hotness is enough to mask the red flags that he has been waving unabashedly since they met. And sneaking uninvited through her window is not helping this, in my opinion. He says he missed her, and they make out and eventually fall asleep next to each other. Am I supposed to be happy about this? Am I supposed to be happy about this? The next day is Sky's birthday, and Holder gives her some prepaid phone minutes, which is cute. It's much less cute that Colleen feels the need to explain what this callback is, because she thinks her readers are stupid. Holder says that he's not apologizing to her because he does not want her to forgive him. I hate him. Sky thinks that this just shows how passionate he is, though. As if I don't even know if I agree with that, but I just think he's an asshole. He says that he's not ready to tell her he loves her. I hope not, because they have only known each other for 1 month, by the way, and literally like 2 or 3 weeks of that was when they weren't speaking because he's a dickhole. But he definitely more than likes her. In my day, we called that liking someone. Sky, however, suggests that they use the word live because if you rearrange the letters between like and love, you get live. So they tell each other, I live you. And I regret that this quirk persists throughout the book. That night, Holder takes Sky to a small local airport where they climb over the fence and lie on the runway to look at the sky. And Holder says that this is the best place in the city to see the stars. And I don't know if you've ever seen an airport runway at night, but that is not a very good place to look at the stars. And also you might get hit by a plane. So fast forward about a month, they are still together. How did they make it this far? About a month later, they are at lunch with Brecken and his boyfriend when another kid mocks Holder for beating up a gay guy and then joining them. And then he calls Sky a slut. And then he says something about Holder's sister. Holder starts to go like dark mode and is about to attack the guy. But to stop him, Sky slaps him across the face, which I'm pretty sure they teach you in therapy school. I'm pretty sure they teach that if you want to be a therapist. She takes him out of the lunchroom to talk, and he cries and talks about missing his sister. We do like to see emotional vulnerability, so that's a rare green flag from a CoHo male. He did almost just have a violent outburst, but to be honest, it would be totally undeserved, in my opinion. So we'll call that one a wash. We'll call it a wash. neither good nor bad, neutral. He thanks Sky for knowing how to handle him, which in my experience is kind of a southern way of romanticizing women's survival tactics against their violent male partners. Handle yourself, buddy, go to therapy. Later that week, Holder texts Sky in the middle of the night that he is coming over, and when he gets there, he's clearly drunk, and he tells her that he just wanted to give her a goodnight kiss, but she convinces him to come in and sleep it off in her bed. They cuddle, and they're all cozy, but as he falls asleep, he says, "I love you, Hope." Who the hell is Hope? Why am I holding my arm like this? I just want to issue a final warning that the rest of the book is where all the trauma kind of starts to unravel. If you did not click away before, please click away. If anything in the trigger warnings is harmful for you, especially CSA. Next, there's another flashback to 13 years ago. It's the same girl that was sitting on the sidewalk, but now she's hiding under her blankets in her bed, anxiously waiting for the door to the room to open. And just as she relaxes, thinking that it won't, it does. Holder wakes Sky up because she is crying in her sleep, and he holds her and comforts her and asks if she wants to talk about it, but she does not. The next day, Holder and Sky go back to his house because his mom is away. He jokingly calls her princess, but Sky kind of freaks out. Put a pin in that. They talk about Holder's family a little bit, and Sky asks when she'll get to meet his mom, but he tells her he does not introduce dates to her. This is never explored. I have no idea why he doesn't introduce people to his mom. But Sky asks him, did Hope get to meet her? And watches the color drain from Holder's face. And he asks where she heard that name, and she tells him about his drunken love confession. And he apologizes and says, I don't know anyone named Hope, never dated anyone named Hope, was just a dream. She kind of takes a moment to gather her feelings, but then he's in her face like, kiss me now. Let her process for a second. Damn. So whatever, they're at his house, they make out, and she's like, I want to do sex. Sex time, let's do it.
I want to have intercourse with you. Ooh, yeah.
But just as he's about to insert, she freaks out. She starts counting things and crying, and she feels really scared. And Holder stops, and he's like, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do anything until you're ready. No big deal, which is nice. And he goes to get her a glass of water. She wanders out of his room, kind of looking for a bathroom, but she stumbles upon Leslie's room. The room looks like it probably hasn't been touched since the day that she passed away. And on the nightstand, there's a picture of Leslie with Grayson. Holder reappears, and he's like, hey, what the hell are you doing in here? Sky asks about the photo, and Holder says that Leslie and Grayson were dating, but they broke up kind of right before she took her life. He says that he's sure that that's not why she did it. She had other problems, but it couldn't have helped. It could have been a compounding issue and sort of her 13th reason, as it were. They go to leave, but Sky sees a picture of Holder and Leslie as children, and she recognizes something about it. The house behind them looks really familiar, and she gets a sudden memory of the cat and the mom that lived there, and she's confused. How would she know Leslie and Holder's mom and their cat and their house? But maybe Holder seems to know her so well so quickly and care for her so quickly because they knew each other as kids, but he hasn't let on to this at all. She runs into another room, and this time it actually is the bathroom, and she locks herself in. Sky is having a flood of memories of being friends with Holder and his sister, and she thinks that he must have recognized her in the grocery store that day, and he must have freaked out about the bracelet because he recognized it too. Why hasn't he told her this whole time? And I told you people would cheat at the questions game. I just keep holding this hand right here, doing nothing. Holder is begging her to come out of the bathroom and talk to him, but she demands to know who Hope is. And finally she asks, is it me? Am I Hope? And he says, yes. She demands to be taken home. She just wants to go process this on her own. But once they're in the car, Holder drives past her house because they need to talk. I hate him. He says that he's sure she has a million questions, and she's like,
yeah, I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
I'm a millennial, okay. Why were you so mad about the bracelet? Why didn't you tell me you knew who I was? What kind of sick game is this? Like, remember when he was asking all the questions about her family and stuff and being super nosy? He literally came to her house to do recon and figure out if she was this child that he knew when he was 5. Next, there's another flashback, and it's a memory of playing hide and seek with Holder and Leslie. And Holder is seeking, and he's kind of calling their names, and he's like, Hope and Les, you guys are hopeless. Ha ha ha. That's the name of the book. Back in the present, Holder has taken Skye back to the airport so they can lay on the runway and talk again, whatever. He tells her that he did immediately recognize her, and that's why he wanted to see her ID, but once he saw that her name was different, he thought he must have been mistaken. And then he saw her again, and he thought she was beautiful and interesting and wanted to get to know her anyway. And then when he saw the purple bracelet, that's when he knew that she truly was Hope. This bracelet, by the way, is not described in depth. It's just described as a purple bracelet that the little girl made. So I'm just imagining a purple pony bead bracelet, like the least unique thing in the world. I don't know if it has like a charm on it or what, but these flashbacks take place in roughly like 1999. And do you know how many people were making purple pony bead bracelets in the late 90s? I know I was. I loved purple. Purple was my favorite. Look, my lights are purple. I didn't even do that on purpose. That's not in the script. My sheets on the daybed in my office are purple. Bitches who love purple make everything purple. So then he goes on to relate the story of the last time he saw her, which was the day that Leslie had given Skye that purple bracelet. And Skye actually remembers this from the flashback earlier. She doesn't really remember much from her childhood. Like, most people don't remember very much from before they were, like, before kindergarten. And the flashback chapters have been kind of like dreams that she, like, sort of remembers, sort of doesn't. Holder tells her that they were neighbors and best friends when they were around 5 years old, and he says that he felt bad leaving her crying on the curb that day, so he looked outside to see if she was still there, and he saw an unfamiliar car pull up. And Skye looked up at the driver, like the driver had called her name or called out to her, and she got up and climbed into the car, and that was the last time he ever saw her. Skye, or Hope as she used to be called, has been a missing person for 13 years. So Skye is freaking out. As one does when they're told that their whole life is a lie. And Holder finally does take her home, and he's begging her not to talk to her mom about any of this because he is concerned about what Karen would do. But Skye is sure that her mom cannot be aware of the kidnapping. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't know anything about that. Inside her house, it's after midnight, and Skye is kind of looking at everything and seeing her home through a different lens. And when she reaches her room, her mom is sitting there waiting. Karen found Skye's secret cell phone and read all the mean texts from Holder. Remember, he said he was going to send her insults? They've all said things like, "You're not the prettiest girl in school," and "I didn't have a wonderful time with you today." Like, it's obvious that he's being sarcastic, but to Karen, these are red flags. Oh my God, if she only knew the truth. Karen, if you only knew, it's so much worse than this. So she bans Skye from having the phone or seeing Holder anymore. Skye launches a barrage of questions. She's like, why did you homeschool me? Why can't we have TVs or phones or internet? And Karen is just like, we'll talk tomorrow. Like, I'm going to bed. A few hours later, Skye suddenly wakes up and screams because someone is in her room. I don't know where this energy was when she was home alone earlier, but it is Holder, of course. Karen bursts in the room, obviously, because her daughter just screamed. And Holder just tells Skye to pack a bag because they're leaving. I don't really know what prompted him to come pick her up, and I don't feel like looking it up. Karen is living up to her name and threatening to call the police, although it's totally justified in this case. I just wanted to make a Karen joke somewhere. She's like, Skye, you are not leaving with him. And Skye says, go ahead and call the police, because in her head, she's like, if Karen knows anything about the kidnapping, if Karen is the kidnapper, she would never call the police. But if she is not the kidnapper, knows nothing about it, like thought this adoption was totally legit, she would call the police. But Karen doesn't, so Sky leaves with Holder. Holder tells Sky that her father still lives in the same house next to his childhood home where his dad still lives too. She tells him to take her there immediately, but he says that she is not quite ready and needs some time to cool off because God forbid a woman make a decision for herself. So they go to the area, like it's an hour away or something, I don't know. They check into a hotel and settle in, and then Sky is ready to hear more about when she went missing. Now this hand is going to be the useless one. So back when Holder saw Sky get into the mysterious car, he tried to tell his mom, but she acted like it wasn't a big deal. So he was like, okay, mom must know something I don't, whatever, I'm 5. But then Sky's father came home and was kind of frantically looking for her. And he was a cop who scared Holder. So when Sky's father asked Holder about her, he ran away and hid. And then by the time he had come out, it had been a few hours, and he honestly really didn't have anything else to say. Like, a car showed up and took her. I'm 5. I don't know shit. And all the adults acted angry at Holder, so he has blamed himself ever since. Sky's dad evidently left a 5-year-old at home alone. What the hell is this irresponsibility? And then Holder's mom didn't even bat an eye when he told her what he saw. Like, oh, kids make up the craziest shit, like their friend getting kidnapped. What is this? These guys are to blame. For once, it's not Holder's fault. For once, I'm not mad at Holder. Sky listens to this story and tells him again that she wants to go see the house and try to remember more about this time of her life. Once there, they're parked outside and they see that it seems to be empty at the moment, and Sky has the urge to go inside. She wants to look for something of her mother's, and particularly a picture of her mom, and she suddenly remembers where the spare key was kept because she was a latchkey kid at age 5, which is crazy. So she enters the home and locates her old room, but there's not really a picture of her mom or anything that she sees. So she just looks around and she ends up laying on the bed to try to remember everything. And she sees the glow-in-the-dark star stickers on the ceiling, and suddenly she feels really anxious, and she nervously is looking at the door and she realizes that this was a bad idea. Like, the doy, babe, you're doing a B&E in the house where you were abused as a child. Sky has another flashback of her father coming into her room to sexually abuse her in the very bed where present-day Sky is currently lying. It's not explicit, but it is very uncomfortable and sad. And now Sky remembers exactly what happened to her. So she's having a panic attack, understandably, and she starts tearing up the room, throwing things around, knocking over furniture, and Holder storms in and restrains her and is like, we need to get out of here. They go back to the hotel, pull themselves together, comfort each other, and Holder asks what her father did to her, and she tells him. And then she bizarrely starts to initiate sex. And she says that since her father was the only one to do that to her, she wants Holder to do it and take it away. And that made me feel icky, even though I know it's not a super uncommon trauma response, but we all know in CoHo's world, a good boning will fix all your problems. You don't need therapy. You just need to get dicked down. Sorry, I'm uncomfortable. I'm sorry. It's hard to write jokes about this, y'all. I'm trying to keep it light. To his credit, though, Holder will not go through with it for now. So they calm down a little and comfort each other, which is nice. Holder is angry, but he explains that he is heartbroken for her and he is mad that it happened, but his feelings for her have not changed, which I appreciate. I like to see, when a partner reassures their significant other that they did nothing wrong. Their feelings have not changed for them. I think that's a good thing. Okay, so next, they tell each other, I love you instead of I live you, and they start kissing. This is moments later, by the way, and they start going further. And Holder starts saying stuff like, I'm only touching you because I love you. And I don't think this is wrong when your partner is traumatized. But then he's like, I want to make love to you. And didn't he just say that she wasn't ready? I don't think this is necessary right now. I don't understand. But they keep saying I love you, and they keep going further, and they have sex for the first time, and Sky remains present, which is good. But it's like, he just said that she's not ready, and then moments later, they're fucking. What was that about? That's part of the healing. I don't know how it. She just remembered today. She just actually realized all of this. I hate the pacing. I hate the pacing. The next day, Sky says she wants to go see the house one more time before going home, and she promises to not even get out of the car. I smell cap, but Holder agrees because he is stupid. So they're back outside her father's house and they see him come home from work. And Sky feels like she recognizes him, but isn't really having like memories or flashbacks or anything. She tells Holder, we can go now. But as he's reaching to turn the ignition, she bolts and runs for the door. And Holder catches her and is like dragging her off the front porch when her father bursts out and is like, what are you kids doing on my lawn? But then he recognizes Sky and says, Princess? Her father reaches for his radio, but Holder slaps it out of his hand and is like, she remembers what you did to her. And he's kind of like, ooh, I can't report this then, can I? Because then she'll report me. Oh, what is he gonna do? He's in such a pickle. Fucking bitch, I hate him. I hate him worse than Holder because he actually, like, committed a crime, like one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit. Sky says all she wants are some things of her mother's and some answers, and he tells them to come inside. Holder is like, leave your weapon out here. And her dad obliges, but what's the odds that a cop in Texas doesn't have more guns? Foreshadowing. They keep the door open, and the two kids like stand in the doorway, basically like ready to run at any moment. And they talk to her father. And he basically blames all of his abuse on his grief and alcoholism. And he says that he regrets it every day. And Sky is like, good. And I rarely root for a CoHo character, but that had me pumping my fist. Hell yeah, get him. Sky then kind of has a memory of before her mom died, when they were a happy, loving family before the abuse began, which, I don't know, there's something really weird in this book where like grief and abuse are connected. I don't know, it's weird. And she asks him, how could he have done this to her if he ever cared for her? How could she ever forgive him for this? He says he couldn't control himself back then, but now he's gotten it under control, and he only ever did it to one more girl after Sky was kidnapped. Oh, what a saint. What a saint. He only abused one other person. Ugh. Do you want to guess who that one more person was? It was Leslie. So Holder is like freaking out at this revelation, and Sky is freaking out, and her father kind of uses this distraction to call into his police radio that an officer is down and turn another weapon on himself. So Sky and Holder skedaddle away before cops can arrive on the scene. Back at the hotel again, they're in shock, but they clean themselves up. They are literally washing blood off of themselves. There are some apt descriptions in here. I do like some of the stuff that it says here about the relationship you have with an abusive parent. I still hate him, and I'm still scared to death of him, and I'm devastated that he's dead. I don't want to grieve over his loss. I want to rejoice in it, but it's just not in me. I know those were some pretty good quotes. Okay, I'll give her flowers. And then immediately after that, they are holding each other, comforting each other, and they start kissing, and they head to bed to have sex again to ease the pain. The fuck, Colleen? Everyone experiences shock and grief in their own way, but this was jarring and weird to me. I'm just wondering what the literary purpose of this is, if not to imply that physical intimacy is trauma healing, and not that it can't contribute. It's just that the pace is just so breakneck. Like, yesterday was when she unearthed those buried memories. It just is sloppy storytelling, in my opinion. It does not, there's no reason for it to happen this fast, but it does. Oh. And then Holder's like, I love you so much. I only do this because I love you and I want to ease your pain, but I need you to show me you love me like that, because he wants her to top him. So she does. Cool. Reciprocity. Get it, girl. And then she talks about how much she loves him, and she says that she's giving him the last piece of her heart, and then they just keep having sex, and I'm in hell. In the middle of the night, Sky wakes up to see that Holder has left the room and finds him in the pool area lying on the ground, looking at the stars, and she joins him. He tells her about an exercise where you visualize speaking with your past self and telling them what you wish someone had told you at that time. So she does this, and in her brain, she goes back to the day that she was crying on the sidewalk, and she tells her that she is brave and strong and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's actually not a terrible chapter. Like, this is actually what you do in therapy, because you can't just fuck the pain away. Sky decides to return home to hear Karen's side of the story, and Karen tells Sky that her, as in Karen's mom and dad, died when she was young, leaving her older brother as her guardian. Karen's brother was 10 years her senior and now spending his 20s trying to care for her. She says something about missing her mom too much, as if a child can possibly miss their deceased parent too much. I think she's trying to say that she was too busy wallowing in her own sadness to realize that her brother was going through the same thing, plus the added responsibility of caring for her, as if that excuses what's about to happen. So her brother's really stressed all the time. They argue, but one day they get into a really bad argument where they get into a physical fight, and the physical fight ends in him sexually assaulting her, which soon became a pattern in the following years, and Karen tried to report it multiple times, but the cases were always dismissed for some reason, and she finally decided that running away was her only option. So then years later, Karen was in a grocery store and she heard her brother's voice, and worse than that, she heard a little girl replying to him. Her brother was Sky's dad, and that day she could tell that he was abusing his daughter. Again, she tried to file reports to get him investigated, and again, they were all dismissed. Eventually, she decided that kidnapping her niece was the only option to save her from that situation. Karen tells Sky that she'll confess to the police if that's what she wants. Is that a confusing sentence? Karen will confess if Sky wants Karen to do so. Ugh. Pronouns. Sky leaves with Holder again to think about what to do. They go back to the airport to talk, and it boils down to Sky saying that because her kidnap led to Leslie being assaulted, she's worried that if she forgives Karen, Holder will grow to resent her for it. But Holder, in an unforeseen fit of maturity, says that it was not her or Karen's fault, it was her father's. A CoHo character blaming a man over a woman? Unheard of. It only took her making him a utterly irredeemable serial child rapist. Anyway, this all kind of makes Holder feel better about his sister's death because now he knows that she was in a lot more pain than he realized, and he can forgive her for it. Sky opens a box of her mother's things, which Karen had stolen from Sky's father's house. And man, for a sheriff, he has really bad security. Inside, though, is a picture of Sky and her mother and a necklace, which Sky's mom is wearing in the photo. So that's nice. Sky tells Holder that she is ready to go back home and she made her decision. At home, Sky thanks Karen for getting her out of that situation, and when she goes to bed, she smiles at the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling. The last chapter of the book is a flashback to Sky and Holder looking up at the stars, and Holder tells her that whenever she's sad, she just needs to remember the sky and its beauty. Is this good advice? I don't know, but she agrees and they hold hands. The end. I don't think I'm gonna read any more Colleen Hoover. Maybe if she has any other short ones, like the novella that I read. I love Rant reviews. I regularly watch 3-hour-long videos about books. I also enjoy consuming bad media for the sake of making fun of it, but reading this made me feel gross, and it wasn't funny bad. It wasn't so bad it was good. It was just bad. I will give Colleen a little bit of credit. Some of the character work was not terrible. Like I said, I knew that Sky was traumatized before that was ever explicitly shared because of how she behaved, and maybe it was a little heavy-handed, I don't know. However, she was also inconsistent. The affirmation text thing, the track team stuff, which never came up again, by the way. She's still not joining the track team. She would make these decisions and there would be no thought process given to the readers. It was just all of a sudden, no, I'm not doing that. Yes, I do hate that. Like, there were lots of things that did circle back, like with the cell phone minutes, calling Sky Princess, the stars, and Holder's advice. So that's promising. That's not bad. But when the callbacks happen, oftentimes, Colleen feels the need to explain that it's a callback instead of trusting her reader's comprehension. The timeline also was just breakneck speed. This whole book took place over 2 months. It just felt very rushed to me. And there's no reason for it to be that way. I've heard some people say in defense of CoHo's writing that her books are very emotional and that you really feel for the characters. Like, yes, I felt for Sky. Not because CoHo is an exceptional writer, but because she's crammed her so full of trauma, and I possess basic human empathy. Once again, the link to join me in donating to RAIN will be in the description. No pressure. Give what you can if you can. You can support me and my channel by liking, commenting, subscribing. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Where was I? But he doesn't leave. He lays on her bread. Oh my God, what the fuck am I even saying? Several weeks. Oh my God, how do I even say that word? What am I saying? Why did I make myself say words I can't say? Lost my place again. Okay, that's got to be good enough.